Hello, everyone, and welcome to Season 2 of the World with Nate podcast. This podcast was created to shed light on some of the stories and lessons that we accrued during our time here. My hope is that those stories will bring us all together in this thing that we all call life. My hope for this podcast episode is that you find it both enlightening and enjoyable. So, sit back and relax. I want you to enjoy the ride. Special thanks to my friend Buck Kern of Hawkeye Storage and Consulting for helping me bring Season 2 of The World with Nate to YouTube. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to The World with Nate in the Hawkeye Storage and Consulting sponsored studio. Today, I want to welcome with you a special guest named Jade Hess. Jade, did you ever imagine you'd have a world record?
No,
Okay.
That's not something that people tend to
Think about?
Yeah.
No. So I had a guest earlier on Season 1 who was going for a pull-up world record. And to gain the magnitude of pull-ups, he did 6,700 pull-ups, and it was the most excruciating thing I've ever witnessed. And you can relate to that, being that your world record is an intense, crazy, out-of-this world record as well, right?
Right, yeah.
Yes. I didn't really grasp the magnitude of it until I started digging and read through your story and saw the pictures. And when I saw the pictures that I'm going to speak about, it just blew my mind. I saw a picture of a diaper, of a premature diaper. Mm-hmm. And I believe you were holding the diaper?
It was both diapers for the girls when they were born.
In your hand?
One hand.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it appeared that one was almost smaller than your thumb and a female hand, and I held my hand up, and a credit card, would you say? It was...
So your debit card or a pack of Trident gum would be
is
bigger.
as big as the bigger
Slightly
than the
bigger than the diaper, yeah.
That your daughters were wearing
Mm-hmm.
at the time of their birth.
Mm-hmm.
So they were born, and one was slightly larger than the other because you had twins,
Mm-hmm.
identical twins.
Mm-hmm.
What are the odds of identical twins?
Well, I do have the statistics written all down,
Somewhere.
but it's 1 in 1,000, and
Okay.
then you break it down from there. But for identical twins, it's extremely rare.
Right. Is that something that ran in your family?
My dad was a twin.
Okay.
And back then, they didn't really do the fraternal identical twin, diagnosis.
Statistics and studies, I'm
Yeah,
sure.
yeah.
Right.
But his was stillborn.
Okay.
And so we know really
Gotcha.
very little about his twin.
Right. So he made it through the twin, unfortunately did not.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha. So it was in the family.
Mm-hmm.
So was it something that you thought about when you got pregnant with the girls?
Yes. So it was always kind of a joke within our family that one of us was going to get pregnant with twins.
And no one had prior to this?
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
So I was
You were
the lucky one.
groundbreaker
Yeah.
in that regard.
Yeah.
And groundbreaker, a hell of a groundbreaker, because the girls came early,
Mm-hmm.
and the girls came very early. So the time that they came was 22 weeks,
22 weeks in one day.
and one day is when you had them.
Mm-hmm.
So with that carries complications, being that they were so early and underdeveloped.
Mm-hmm.
What did that look like? Did you know that they were going to come that early?
So when I found out I was pregnant with the twins, it was 7 weeks along, and I knew that I was pregnant with, I knew I was pregnant with identical twins at that time, and they it's a high-risk pregnancy immediately because you are at risk for something called twin-to-twin transfusion syndrome.
Okay, and I'm not familiar with that at all.
So basically in TTTS,
Okay.
the twins are sharing blood vessels.
Gotcha.
And it can make one twin is getting more blood, getting bigger and sicker, where the other twin is getting less blood, getting smaller and sicker, and it can lead to the demise of both of them.
Okay.
So...
And you found that out?
I found that out at 16 weeks.
Okay.
So
you found out at 7 that you're pregnant with twins.
Mm-hmm.
Everything went smooth, and then at 16 weeks you got this news?
Yep.
And
TS.
Triple TS.
Yep.
Okay. And that stands for what again?
Twin-to-twin transfusion syndrome.
And it's the lack of blood.
It's a blood share between the two, essentially.
Okay. And how worried were the doctors at that point in time?
The time of diagnosis, it was critical that...
So you got to do something right away.
Found out the diagnosis on a Thursday, had to travel that weekend.
Wow.
To Ohio.
Whoa, so not even here in Iowa, where we're at.
Yep. So the referral out is either to Cincinnati or to Rochester.
Gotcha.
Rochester was full, and so Cincinnati is actually one of the best places to go. And they needed us to travel if we were wanting to pursue saving
Viability.
Yeah, the twins. It was basically the options were not go, and there was a 95% chance that the twins were going to die while in utero, or travel to Cincinnati and have the potential possibility of saving their lives.
Was that a tough decision?
I didn't think about it
No-brainer.
at all. It was, I'm going, and the first time that we went out there, it was that weekend, we immediately left, and I wasn't a candidate for the surgery the first time.
What do you mean by that?
So the size discordance between the two twins needed to be a certain percent.
Okay, to qualify for the surgery?
Right.
Okay.
So they were at risk, but they weren't at that much risk qualifying for the surgery at that time. So it was still kind of a stable place where they were okay growing. And so we went to Cincinnati twice in a 2-week time frame to...
You work, you have a job, and your husband at the time had a job, and you have 2 other kids.
Right.
What's that look like?
Pulling the family together, the older 2, my oldest was in school at the time, and my daughter Collins was in daycare, and so it was really just restructuring kind of everyone.
Yeah, everybody pitches in.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine. I have 4 kids as well. And we're just busy going to soccer and,
right.
not adding all the extra stuff and traveling states.
Right. And we couldn't fly. Flying
because of risk.
Yep. So if I would go into labor in the air.
But still a drive. It's not like it's an hour.
No, it was 10 hours.
In the car. That's not good
pregnant
for pregnant either. My wife's a midwife, so I know some of these things.
Yeah.
Wow. That's quite the story in itself. If we end the podcast right there, that's quite the... So you're going to Cincinnati is what? And they can't, you're not eligible the first time. So then you come back.
Come back the second time, and the twins were at enough of a risk of
So
dying.
one had grown more than the other and created a disparity between the 2. And they're like, okay, now we can do it. Okay.
It was enough of this is emergent, that if you're wanting to intervene, this is the time to do it.
Okay, so when you say intervene, what are they doing?
To medically intervene, they needed to release the pressure in one sac to take fluid off of that baby.
Okay.
To make room for the other.
Okay.
And sever blood vessels between the 2 twins.
Okay.
So surgery.
So hopefully sever them so that they both get some, right?
No longer sharing the blood.
Okay. And you guys were attempting to save both, going into it, trying to save both.
Yeah. Honestly, the doctors give you the risk of doing this surgery right on the operating table. I was awake the whole time.
No
I
way.
had to be
That's
awake.
something I'd be wanting to do.
Yep. And on the operating table, you could find out that they both died from that instant severing of the blood vessels, or one of them, and I got the news that they made it. And so that was a huge answered prayer right there.
Right.
And so then after that surgery, I stayed in the hospital for monitoring for the first day.
For you or for the baby? Everybody?
For everybody.
Right.
Yep. Because when you have this type of a surgery, you're at risk of preterm labor within 10 weeks of having this surgery.
So that would have put you at 26, 27?
The time of the surgery would have been 28 weeks.
Okay. So
18 weeks, and then risk would be up to 28 weeks.
Okay. So that still would have put you as early. Okay. So you go home then from Cincinnati?
Yep.
Back to Iowa. Were you on like bed rest or anything?
Moderate bed rest.
So what'd that look like?
Oh.
And 2 kids.
Right.
Yeah, bed rest. Okay.
So at that time, the doctor said, you need to basically do what a princess would do. This is literally what their words were, which is slim to nothing. And so we had community members, we had my family, we had a lot of help.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Wow. I just can't even imagine all that. But that wasn't it.
That wasn't it.
No.
Mm-hmm.
So what was next? You're back in Iowa, and the girls, they're diagnosed with TTTS at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And then what?
So leaving Cincinnati, I was told to be, aware that I could go into labor at any time.
Okay.
And so bed rest was critical.
Right.
The only thing I should get up to do is go to the bathroom, get up enough to move my blood around in my body, and
nothing extra.
Take it easy. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was really hard. I mean, I had great friends that would take the older two to school or to daycare, people helping around the house. My family was amazing. And really, we only made it 4 weeks before my water broke.
And what was that like? You were laying in bed and that happened, or and what were you thinking? Because you knew that was early.
Mm-hmm. So when my water broke, I was home with Coy and Collins, and we had just finished our Elf on the Shelf had arrived.
You are never going to forget that.
No. And I mean, it's like in true Jade fashion, we had just decorated their trees. They pretty much did that on their own because I couldn't help. And gotten into their jammies and received their little gift from their elf.
Dang.
And we just had dinner. We had a friend from Dysart deliver dinner, and I just put it on their plate. And I was standing next to the counter, and my water broke.
Dang.
And so we had
Did you have when you were consulting with all these doctors, did you have a plan for if this would happen?
Oh, yeah. So I knew
where you were going.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I knew that the U of I had high statistics for saving small babies.
Right.
But that if the twins were going to be born extremely early, that I needed to go there versus a smaller hospital that doesn't have the tools and the know-how. Gotcha.
And you were early enough that you knew you needed to go straight to the U of I.
Yeah. The ambulance, actually, when they came, they said that their protocol is to go to the nearest hospital, which didn't include the U of I.
So how the girls were 22 weeks and 1 day. This is when we're talking right now. Mm-hmm. The viability prior to your girls was what, 24 weeks?
So the definition of viability on the internet.
What was it?
It's 24 weeks.
Right.
And so,
but it's not.
It's not.
That's the thing, Jade. Mm-hmm. You rewrote history because it's 22 weeks in 1 day then. Mm-hmm. But it's even crazier because they're twins on top of it, right?
Right. And that's not something that happens. I mean,
ever.
It hasn't happened ever.
Humanity doesn't know if it has.
Right.
There's no recorded history of this happening. And you live in Little Iowa with me. Mm-hmm. It's just wild to me still that we're having this conversation and this is a thing.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it's wild to you, too.
It is, but over the years, it just become like, I coach a lot of moms and I talk to a lot of healthcare professionals all the time.
Right.
And for me, it's normal because I've lived it. But
it's
again,
war.
it's
war in.
Yeah.
But it's not normal, Jade. This
is
wild and crazy and extreme. So 22 weeks, 1 day, you're in the back of the ambulance and they're telling you, all right, we got to take you to the nearest hospital. And you're like, no, we need to go to the U of I. Or how'd that look?
Yeah, I didn't go like that.
Okay. Well, tell me the story.
From the time that my water broke?
Sure.
Okay. Well, standing next to Coy and Collins, I mean, it was me, Coy and Collins, home alone.
Yeah.
For one, and my water had just broke.
That's not ideal.
No.
The kids aren't going to take you in, right?
Oh, no. And they were like, what the heck is going on?
Mom?
Yeah. And at the time, they were 2 and
young,
4, just toddlers. And so to explain what had just happened, I have this smack card in our little smack card coming up, and it says, sometimes mommies pee their pants. And that's all I could think to tell them.
Gotcha.
that had just happened.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I was very calm in the moment thinking, I cannot scare them.
Yeah.
And so they kept eating dinner, and I went to go to the bathroom. Like, I had never had my water break before. And I called my sister, I called my mom and let them know what was going on,
Right.
and called the ambulance. And the ambulance showed up. I forgot to put my pants back on.
Okay.
So I just
Welcome, guys.
just had jammies on
Okay.
when they got there. And Coy, my oldest at the time, again, he was 4 or 5.
Yeah.
Helped me
Young.
get my bag together because I was not prepared for that to happen.
Right. Not at that second.
early. Yeah.
Right.
And then as they were kind of triaging me, I guess, in the house, what the plan was, I said, I cannot go to Waterloo because they don't have the policy in place to attempt to save them. And
Right.
honestly, had I gone there, it would have been a miscarriage.
Because of time and...
Their ability to save a baby that small.
Right. But University of Iowa didn't necessarily... 22 weeks, what was the first thing they did that you got down to U of I? Because what are we talking about when a baby is that young? The lungs are not fully developed. What sort of other things are we talking about that we're so worried about?
To intubate, or I guess to put a breathing tube into a baby that small, you can fracture their jaw and kill them.
Right.
When you put that into their throat.
Because they're not developed.
Because they're not developed, their whole body is not, it's so fragile that just the tiniest movement of their body could kill them. And so you need professionals who really have worked with that population to know
how to move
how to move them,
touch them, and every piece of the puzzle they have to be experts in.
Mm-hmm. Their skin was as frail as tissue paper.
And that's all because they weren't completely developed.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Okay. So we're there. And what are you thinking?
On the way to Iowa City, it was a terrible ride. I think the roads that we just had come across were just full of potholes, and it was shaky, and it was... I think it started to rain. My battery was on low on my phone.
Of course it was.
Yeah.
Right?
And so I was plugging in my phone, and I had 10% battery. And so the only thing I could think of was to call my grandma.
Okay.
Very faithful woman. I told her what was going on and just said I needed her to pray with me because I knew she was going to say something that would just...
That you needed.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And then after that, my phone died, of course. And... the lady in the ambulance had said that if the twins were born on our ride, that she wouldn't have the oxygen mask to save them, and she wouldn't have anything to do, that she would just have to wrap them up.
And that's a drive from where you're coming from to Iowa City.
Mm-hmm.
So you're sitting in the back, just waiting.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And I remember telling her that I needed to go potty.
Right.
And she said, the best thing that you can do is hold it because you just don't know. Like, they were so small that if my body was
pushed the wrong amount.
Yeah.
Yeah, wow. Wow. Okay. So the ride, it was terrible. You hit every pothole, but you get there.
Mm-hmm. Get there.
And what are the doctors saying to you when you come in?
Everybody was very calm. I mean, they're skilled in this, that they see this kind of thing all the time, and they were amazing. The nurses were so calm with me. It almost seemed like it wasn't really an emergency to them.
Right.
Which the last thing they want to do is cause fear.
Correct.
And they kind of just talked me through everything, that they were going to get me hooked up to, fluids and give me magnesium to try to stop the labor.
So they were going to try to hold off to see if they could leave the girls in longer.
Yeah. I think one of the first things I remember them saying was just that I was now an inpatient until I would have them.
Okay.
Which could have been, 8+
days, weeks.
Yeah, you don't know how long.
Dang. And then, all the stress and of life, I'm sure, adds up. That's tough. Okay. When did you have the babies?
The next day.
So you spent the night, overnight. Was that tough?
Oh, it was terrible.
Terrible
I mean,
sleep,
just
I imagine.
sleeping, and I started to have just all the things.
Yeah.
Lots of signs that labor was progressing.
Okay.
Pains.
Yeah.
And I mean, I knew it was going to be sooner than what they were saying, or what they were hoping was that it was going to be weeks.
Right.
So.
Man. And the next day, here come the two girls. At 22 weeks and 1 day. And then what was the talk? What was the first things that they had to do to ensure?
Well, I guess going back a little bit, talk of burial for the girls was something that we had talked about.
Those are things that you had to do
before the girls were actually born. Planning for them to be stillborn. They actually had said that more than likely when you deliver them, there's a huge chance that they're going to be stillborn, and so they needed to know what my wishes were at that point.
Dang. So those are all things that you have to go through and plan
and then immediately talked to NICU after I got triaged in that, they were going to do everything that they could to try to save them if that's what my wishes were. Right.
And you were 100% for whatever you got to do. Right.
Yeah. So, I mean.
When you made that decision, 100% in, was there a thought process about complications later?
The healthcare team talks about all the complications. I mean, on the extreme form to mild forms.
Right.
And so autism, cerebral palsy.
Are all things that they're telling you could be possibilities. Wow. And some of those things are things that you're not going to find out right away.
No.
Those are things that could be
later on.
Yeah. So the girls, when you deliver them, you had said that their skin was like tissue paper?
Translucent. You could see their veins, the liquids that you and I hold in our bodies, or a typical baby.
Right.
A neurotypical baby would not be pouring fluids out of their skin.
Right.
And they were. Like any fluid that they kept in their body, it was I guess just a constant balancing act of trying to retain the fluids that they were given.
Yeah.
And not pouring them out through their skin.
So constantly trying to keep them hydrated and nourished, and they're losing it by the second.
It's just recreating the womb.
Outside of the womb.
Outside of the womb.
Which before this was thought to not be possible.
And still thought to not be possible.
And that's what you're working on now, is trying to change that perception and what is thought to be reality, right?
Right.
Because it's not. That time has taught us that people can be saved longer.
Yeah. In Keeley and Kambry, there are other 22-weekers in the world.
Right.
Just not 22 and 1.
Right.
And twins.
Twins. That's what sets them apart, because growing inside, it's harder for twins because there's less nourishment, or what? Why is it so?
I mean, just like Keeley and Kambry, one twin was smaller. And so, I mean.
When we're talking smaller, one twin weighed, what was the birth weight?
Kambry at birth was, the statistics shown in the Guinness World Record is including an item that was found on her bed.
Oh,
so
dang.
It showed at
so that's not even right.
It showed at 15 ounces, but they came back the day later and they said, there was something on her bed. So she was 13.4 ounces.
Holy cow. 13 ounce little human.
And then Keeley was exactly 1 pound.
So in size comparison, how big are we talking?
Size comparison, I guess, like an NFL football, it weighs 15 ounces.
Wow. And I will share pictures and all of that so people can get a real look at the size and just how small they were.
The diaper that was in my hand. So one
the
for
one we
each.
spoke about earlier.
Yeah, it's actually too big for a Barbie. Like a full-size Barbie.
Yeah, I know. We have a ton of Barbies. I'm just trying to wrap my head around it,
and
Jade.
The length of a actual name brand Barbie is 11.5 inches. So that is what her length was
inches.
at her birth. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And Kambry was smaller than that.
So when you had the girls, was it the buzz of the hospital? People...
Again, they are professionals down there. They
took it with a grain of salt, I guess, right?
Yes. However, I knew after creating friendships with all of them that it was
magnificent.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So what kind of things are the doctors, the second they're born, they're walking you through?
Honestly, one twin was born, and I was able to touch her head as the other twin was being born. So they touched Keeley, she went off to the NICU, and then Kambry was immediately born. And so it was like,
left
right.
With no babies.
Right.
And that's hard. Mm-hmm. I've heard from other women who have sat in this chair and spoke on that, and my wife and is in that career field.
Yeah.
That's something that you want to provide mothers, is that skin to skin, that time after the birth, and that just couldn't happen.
Yeah, I kind of felt like at the moment that they had been taken, I knew they were breathing and they were going to the best place they needed to be.
Right, yeah.
I was relieved because it was over, that immediate moment.
And they're here. And they're here now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But after that, they just had said, it's minute by minute right now.
As far as they're doing good right now. But
right.
That's all we got.
But it's critical. I mean.
Yeah. By the second.
Right.
So what did it look like forward? They're providing you with details as soon as they're getting them on things?
Pretty much the first week or so, it was just down to minute by minute, and then it slowly inched back to hour by hour. And then as the weeks...
What sort of stress is that like when we're talking?
Oh, I wouldn't say... It's really odd because at the time I wasn't really stressing. I was just really relying, like my faith was extremely strong through that time. And I really relied on that. Like I knew, again, I had my grandma who was an incredible leader with her faith, that I knew that there wasn't anything I could do to change anything.
I love it.
And I prayed more in that time of my life than I have ever prayed.
Yeah.
But I knew there's nothing I can physically do other than it was wait and see how things went.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
that's a hard place to be in sometimes, though, with your hands tied and your child seems helpless in those spots.
Right.
When you're watching through the glass and they have all the tubes.
Mm-hmm. Usually a perfectionist, especially when it comes to my kids. I am a mama bear, so it was very hard to let my hands up and just let them take control of that situation.
It's a testament for everyone, though. Sometimes we have to do that. Mm-hmm. Let go sometimes to learn the bigger lesson on the other side. And they're here still. Mm-hmm. And they're how old now?
3.
3 years old. We had spoke earlier, because they're identical, about telling them apart. And you said that one of the twins now takes their glasses off and switches with the other.
Yeah, usually Kambry just takes Keeley's glasses and pretends that she's Keeley. She just...
To do that, to trick mom.
Yeah.
Heck yeah. You are going to have your hands so full someday.
No, I already do.
Heck yeah. Let's get back to the hospital stay, though. How long were you in the University of Iowa, in the NICU area?
So when they were born, they immediately went to Bay 1, which is the most critical bay. They were there for 9 weeks.
That's a long, yeah. Mm-hmm. So you are still working during this time period, or you had tried to take time off? What did it look like?
I worked in the NICU.
Yeah.
And then if I was in the NICU in the morning, there was not a lot I could do for the first 50 to 60 days. I couldn't hold them.
Man.
So, I mean, it was just being in the room. Mm-hmm.
60 days is a long time.
I first held, I think Kambry was the first one I held at 56 days, and then Keeley at 72 days. So Man. Just being there, listening to report every day, I would take notes, and then when report was over, I would work in the NICU and then go home to Coyne Collins. So it was just a constant, like,
two worlds, really, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Man, and that wears on you.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a long time period. We're talking 60 days. That's
just that part.
Right.
I mean,
that's the worst of where they were.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the full stay for Kambry was 138 days.
In the hospital.
And then Keeley was 144 days.
Holy smokes. So you guys, your community obviously showed out and helped, and your family. I can't even imagine the amount of help that you needed to make it through. Right?
Yeah.
I can't. We've had kids in the hospital for 18 days, and we needed so much help.
Right, you do.
And I can't even imagine when we're talking a long stay like that. So it's a testament to the community that we can build, right?
Right.
The follow-up and the continued care for the girls. We had spoke that it was a battle getting them here and keeping them here. Mm-hmm. And it's not over.
No.
What is their care like now? What sort of things are we doing now?
Now that they're 3, I mean, I feel like the last just under a year has been just crazy. They're doing all the normal things that they should be doing.
They're age-appropriate things? They're hitting their milestones?
They're hitting milestones now.
That's just got to blow the doors off of doctors.
Oh, yeah, their doctors really just
think they're rock stars, I'm sure.
Yeah, because,
awesome.
I mean, you wouldn't expect...
No.
Their expectations are extremely low for them.
Right, and that's fine. Mm-hmm. We've talked about, everybody's on their own journey, and when you're speaking about where they started, it's a magnificent story. It's magnificent.
Right. So, I mean, Kambry was diagnosed with autism last year.
Okay.
So
what sort of, since it's a spectrum, what sort of things is she having? What sort of things?
The things that I noticed before her diagnosis was that she would fixate on certain things.
Okay.
So, like, again, that your average person wouldn't really pick up that this is an autistic type characteristic. But she loves to wear sweatshirts. She loves to instantly put on people's shoes. If your shoes are off, she's putting them on.
She's trying them on.
Yeah. Okay. Textures are a big thing for her. Foods used to be red and white.
Okay. Like those were the only things that she would eat? Or?
Oh, yeah. She'd be all over ranch, all over ketchup.
Okay.
Things that shouldn't go together for food went together for her because it just made sense for her.
Yeah.
And then when she gets overstimulated, too much going on, your average person would say that she's naughty. But
Acting
she's just, she has trouble communicating.
Okay.
And now she's speaking sentences.
Yeah.
But about a year ago, she was very nonverbal.
Yeah, so she's came a long, long way.
Yeah.
In a short time period.
We taught her sign language last year.
Yeah.
And she still signs a lot in sentences now. She's building sentences with signs, but also using words.
Awesome.
But she just has... She's doing all the things she's supposed to do now. And
meeting the milestones, which is crazy.
Yeah.
And those, you're still taking appointments. These are appointments, monthly appointments you have to take them to for the...
We go to therapy once a week.
Okay.
So which is more like working on fine motor skills.
Gotcha.
Really developmental things. And the appointments to their lung doctor and things like that have really... To
make sure they're developing on schedule?
Yeah, but because the girls were on oxygen for 2 years at home, I mean, that is kind of a need to check and see where their lungs are as they progress. And so it's more of a 1-year appointment.
Gotcha.
So really our biggest hurdle right now is just developmental milestones. And making sure they continue to meet those.
And they're on separate paths.
Pretty
right?
Pretty much. Keeley does not have autism, but we're kind of in the process of just ruling that out and make sure that that's not a need for her to focus on. But yeah,
take it day by day.
Yeah,
that's all you can do, right?
Yeah.
Heck yeah. If there's a moral of the story, that's all you can do, right? When we're talking about the extreme case, 22 weeks in one day, and making it. It's incredible. Well, Jade, you were quoted, and I want to share this one last thing in the USA Today. You were quoted as saying, if our story can help save another baby, then it's really important to continue to share. And I thought that was something that was amazing, and I think that a lot of people can gain a lot from this. And we had spoke before that you search on the internet, and viability is 24 weeks, and that is supposedly common knowledge.
Right.
And that is not how it is.
No.
That is not the case. And that's your mission going forward.
It is. Honestly, from my own story, I only knew about TTTS from another friend's story.
Yeah.
And because I had searched the internet.
Yeah.
And I have so many moms who search the internet late at night, their water has broken, and they don't know what to do.
Right.
And so it's really important that I show up and share.
Heck yeah. So they can relate and you can help them out. And you're doing that now. The next big thing for you is starting the nonprofit for your girls, which is called?
Keeley and Kambry's Tribe.
Heck yes. And you are doing a gala coming up. And the date for that and information?
January 22nd. Starts at 5. The overall picture for the proceeds of that is to donate back to the NICU families.
So the people like you who have been in the same shoes.
Right. We know that statistically, parents who can be bedside with their babies, those babies do better.
Heck yeah. Heck yeah. Those babies and those parents do better, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Heck yeah. I'm all for it. And anything that I can do to help, I'm there. And I'm going to be at the gala and enjoying the heck out of myself. And maybe I'll even put in a raffle ticket for that corgi dog. So I'm like, if I could win a corgi dog, I would be a hero at my house.
$5.
Heck yeah, I know, you can't beat it. So just one further wrap up before I get you to the firing range. I was just so impressed with this story, advancing medicine and pushing the boundaries of what we thought was human and scientifically possible. And I can't imagine the amount of strength that it takes to get through what you and your family has gotten through. And I commend you for it, Jade. So without anything else, now are you ready to go to the firing range?
I think so.
Heck yeah, you are. It's not that serious. This episode of The Firing Range was brought to you by Hawkeye Storage and Consulting. If you are interested in starting your own storage facility, contact Buck at 319-269-9510 or at email info@hawkeyestorage.com. His website is Hawkeye with an I, one word, .com. Storage and consulting needs. Check out Buck Current. Without further ado, Jade, are you ready? Coffee or tequila?
Oh, coffee.
Chicken Alfredo or spaghetti with meatballs?
Chicken Alfredo.
Small steps or giant leaps?
Giant leaps.
Big city or small town?
Small town.
Abundance or simplicity?
Abundance.
Opener or a closer?
God, I don't know.
Come on.
Opener.
Okay.
Yeah.
Swimming pool or a lake?
Lake.
Reading or music?
Music.
Sleeping in quiet or sleeping with a noise?
Sleeping with noise.
Impact or outcome?
Impact.
Hell yeah. One more thing, if you haven't yet, get to your local mall, the College Hill Mall in Cedar Falls, and check out Keisha's Desserts and Eateries. Jade, thank you so much for coming on The World with Nate and sharing your story about the girls. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate it as well.
Heck yeah.
Special thanks to my friend Katie Hine at Mattress by Appointment, Cedar Falls, for her sponsorship of Season 2 of The World with Nate.